Hey, real quick before we start this video, this upcoming Tuesday on June 10th, we have our first OP11 tournament. It's an online webcam event, 128 player cap, 6 boxes of OP11, and should be a good time. So make sure to check it out if you haven't already. Link in the description for the signups, and enjoy the video. Hey everyone, Eggman here with Russell and Yonas with another team talk. We generally do these about every set release. We did one back in like OP10, especially like when we got the new restriction list. We've got OP11 on the horizon releasing this week as this video releases, and it should be a lot of fun. I think OP10 EBO2 is a good format. I know that there's a lot of deck building choices right now because we have our new star decks for the first time too, which is really cool. And I'm looking forward to the next couple of weeks. So we'll start off with Russell. How you doing, Russell?
I'm good. Just played Red Green Oden at the last online regionals, and I was 6-1, crushing it, and then I went to 6-4, and I was having a bad day.
Yeah. My apologies about that, but
it was fun.
Honestly, like I still commend you for playing the deck, right? I know
It's not that bad.
It's not.
It's
It's
really
not.
not.
It's really not.
It goes wide and it hits hard. It has 5 and 6 cost, 7k bodies, which are like pretty sticky. In this meta, at least it felt that way too.
Yeah.
I was hoping to run into nothing but green purples and Blackbeards.
Yeah.
I saw one green purple, no Blackbeards. I played against like crazy stuff all day.
I mean, that's cool from a meta standpoint, but yeah, unfortunate for you for
now when I'm running into like Marco and Vegapunk and like all these other random things, and we're all reading each other's cards and telling them like I play Izo and I describe what it did like 10, 15 times at least.
And it's online too, so they can't even like reach across the way, right? They depend on your reading comprehension just to know what the card does, right?
Yeah, one of my opponents his native language wasn't English, and so when I was playing him, he's like, "I'm sorry, what is that?" And I'm like, and so he pulls out his phone, and half the game he's like reading it.
Yeah,
and I'm just like, I'm explaining to him because he's playing Zoro, so I'm gonna lose no matter what. I auto lost that match, and I was like, "Hey, so like, I can only do this once. I can only make this brick a 2k once. You're still gonna kill me. Just swing 6. We'll be all right." And
this was like round what, like 7 or 8?
It's round 5. It's round 6.
Okay,
we were both 5-0, and he was like, "Why are you 5-0, Odin?" Like he's making faces. I was like,
"Why?"
I was like, "Let's go." Yeah.
But that's how you know they've got the nerves, right? They're like, how are they 5-0 right now? I've never seen this card in my life. I'm having the run of my personal life.
He was quite disturbed. He was like, "What is going on? Like, what leader is that? What color is it?" Yeah. I was like, "Oh, it's green red, man."
Yeah, we were commiserating before this. Like I had a similar experience with like Marco and like playing 3-drop Emporio, and they're like, I've never seen that card in my life. There's no way that it has a when attacking draw and like also like an on play top. Like what is this custom card that you brought 7-0 to this tournament? So yeah, it is great, right? To be able to be like that's when I'm like, all right, maybe I have a chance in this matchup because they don't know how to play against me, or they're worried that they're not playing around me correctly, and that gives me a chance. So
yeah, 2 players forgot Hody Jones exists. So he's like, "Oh, this game's over," and I was like, "Hody Jones, tap your like only active Dawn." He's like, "I had a Rad Beam, I lose."
Yeah,
let's go.
Yeah, Oden definitely has like one of the sneakier ones because it's so archetype dependent, and then you're like, oh yeah, it's half green, so like what am I doing?
Yeah, here? so plays the best green card ever printed. Yeah, makes sense.
So and then Yonas, how are you been doing? How are you doing?
I've been doing great. Been very busy with the new OP11 starter deck cards. We finally have a Brewer's Paradise format. I am busy trying out plenty of different decks, but I love this kind of thing. So that's been super awesome. Tournaments haven't been super great recently, but I did get a top 8 this last season in OP10, so we'll take it.
Yeah, that's super good. And you are right. It is a Brewer's Paradise, and this is just kind of like a taste of what's to come when we get rotation and like a synchronization too, which I'm really excited for. I think that deck building for this game is great, but the fact that we kind of see Japan's format as at day one, right? We have like a little bit less options for us, but yeah, I think these star decks have been good. I know that also. It's really parallel, right? I had a friend tell me like, hey, I didn't know that this week was supposed to be like an OP11 at locals. Everyone's been testing star deck stuff. They all have proxies, and I'm just like, I'm just playing my green purple Luffy. Like, what's going on here? Like, I didn't know how many people were locking in, but it's going to be a busy summer of One Piece, and the format for the next 2 months starts this Friday essentially. So I know a lot of people are really locking into it.
Yeah, I'm happily taking a break, and I'll be playing in one regional, no Gen Con events.
Yeah.
And I'm actually surprised how much I enjoyed playing the deck that I presented today.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
like deck list and all that. So it has been a brewer's delight.
For sure. And Yonas, you're going to be conversely at most events, I think, for the next couple of weeks.
I am going to be busy. The last couple of weeks have been nonstop online regionals, and then the month of June has 4 back-to-back in-persons between Louisiana, Florida, Vegas, and Toronto. So
yeah.
I'll be traveling a lot, but enjoying the different weather, because anything is better than Arizona in the month of June.
100%. Yeah, you do not want to be in Arizona in June. And I will be in Las Vegas, which is slightly northern Arizona, so you'll be right at home. And then I might be in Florida as well, which is the same as Arizona, but it's just there's water in the air, so you don't know what to do with it. It's so humid out there. So
that's true.
Yeah, but that should be fun. Are you going to be at Gen Con? I meant to ask you before this.
I'm not going to be at Gen Con. I'm doing the onlines, unfortunately.
Gotcha.
I really wanted to try out Riftbound there, because I think there's going to be something there, right?
Yeah. There's going to be, I think, like Riftbound's going to be there. I'm going to be there, and it's my like bi-yearly One Piece regional that I'll be at. So I'll be doing that one. I know a lot of people aren't going, which makes sense because it's only one in-person regional, so it just makes more sense to do 2 or 3 at home, right? Is that how many they have online? So, but also Gundam is releasing in about a month and a half, and they've been really consistent at dropping cards, so I've been really excited about the prospects for that game next month. And then we have like Anime Expo, which has stuff. We have like the newly announced like Dodger game, One Piece collaboration, which is now the reason I'm going to my first Dodgers game, despite being in LA for a year. So just a lot of exciting stuff, I think, for the next couple weeks.
That card looks fire.
Yeah,
it's so good.
The green purple Luffy.
Yeah,
good.
Yeah, and we had the European football Luffy too, which is kind of like a similar collab. The name of the club escapes me at the moment, but it's been really cool to see these collabs kind of pop up. And if you asked me like 2 years ago, do you think that there would be a promo for the LA Dodgers for the One Piece card? I'd say no way, right? The fact that they're getting these really big collabs is really cool, and I think and personally from home too, like there's been like the Fan Fest nights at Universal, which Yomi helped with, and the fact that One Piece was such a prominent IP for that was really shocking to me that it's been so popular in the last little bit.
Yeah, loving it. I like that they're using relevant leaders too, like using BY Luffy and green purple Luffy. Pretty nuts. Like it could just be a Luffy thing, but like also, I mean, it's just Luffy. Like it's Gum Giant now, so hopefully they'll just do another purple Luffy leader next.
Yeah. I think as much as I love, and you, Russell, you love OPO or Sardeco 1001 Luffy as well, but I do agree that card would be a little bit less viable than something else. And because they're leaders, people are more willing to use max rarity leaders because you can still have them on your super tablet, 10 layers of plastic and still play with it. So
yeah, it's also a one of instead of a play set.
Yes.
And so it makes the investment a lot more digestible to the wallet.
Yeah.
Most importantly, you get to see it every game.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
I remember a friend of mine, he had there's this world Dragon Ball Masters leader, and he would have the PSA 10 Black Label slab every time he played with it and would use it. And I'm like, I guess you're not losing value on it, right? Like it is, the slab might get scuffed. It is
slabbed up, yeah.
But it is the card is still as pristine as you left it. So, we'll see if that ends up happening for these Dodger Luffys too. But I think that's really cool. It should be a lot of fun for a lot of these tournaments in the next little bit. And I think. I think the other thing too, real quick before we kind of start talking about some of the more meta stuff, is that it's really a day one format, not only because we get the format first in paper, but I think the fact that this is the first time I think that the simulator hasn't been really up to date, and strictly because I think Basu does a really good job at keeping at it, and this is no criticism for him, but this is the first time it's been the turnaround between a card being legal and a card being spoiled is 2 weeks, right? So traditionally, otherwise, you have a lot of headway, or they be slowly showing off cards. And I think there are a couple of uniquely effect cards in these sets too, which means that just more time to code and review. So I really do support Batsu, and I don't want this to be like, again, like anything negative towards him, but because that is the case, I feel like a lot of people aren't getting like you know the sim grinders when you see them, right? They're like, I played 100 games in the last 24 hours. I know my lines. I know that this deck is like somewhat optimal, and I feel confident. There's a lot of people just like, I can only play so many games on paper. If I have to make a change, I have to unsleeve some stuff, re-sleeve. Like there's so much overhead maintenance for it that this is going to be I think one of the few times we're going to have like a not optimal day one format, which again is very rare for this game, for us at least.
Yeah. Shout out to Batsu for always being like extremely on top of this. I know there's countless times before like official spoilers came out. Sometimes before I even see what the card was on like Discord forums, it's just on the app or on the on the sim somehow. I'm just like, what in the world? Batsu's always been like super doing stuff. I know he's been busy recently, but this is going to be a relatively interesting format where we're going to have relatively limited information for the first couple tournaments, both regionals and just like small local tournaments. So I'm excited what we'll come up with.
Yeah. I really do like seeing like from a data standpoint, like a trend. And we still saw that like beginning of OP10, right? For us, because it was so unique. The restriction list made a pretty big impact. And to see like, the first big event was won by Lim, and also got, it was a Lim finals, right? I think in Europe, right? And then to see like Lim be like more popular, less popular, like the rise of like Shanks, and then like EB02 came out, and like Dofi, which was just like arguably one of the best leaders in the game, just be wiped out completely. It's been, I think it's fascinating. I'm a big nerd for data, but it's been really, really cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, I do the same thing all the time with all the Japanese accounts I already follow.
Yeah.
And like everything, I like all the accounts I follow on Twitter in the East. I'm like, oh, how's Zoro trending right now in like in 12, or like how are all the decks doing right now in 12? And I see like the small adaptations, and I'm like, oh, we'll see if that sticks, right? And then once they have their first major event, it's going to be almost just as exciting as we're going to have our like run of OP11 with starters. If the starters are going to be that impactful, which I think like at least two decks will be somewhat relevant, in my opinion.
I think we never really like consensus is that I think the original set of 6 were probably a little bit more impactful compared to these 6.
By far.
Clearly Dofi became very viable. Purple Luffy, those two were like the best ones. Katakuri and Uta were just okay. Like Uta was like fine. Katakuri, those cards didn't really do anything. I love my 7 cost nuke gate, so like the Shanks deck is automatically tier 1 in my mind. And then I'm missing one, which doesn't bode well for the impact of the deck. But the Smoker, which Tashigi, actually Tashigi's really good. The issue is that you don't always see that card, but we have a new searcher for Navy cards, so maybe Smoker can be a little bit better with it. So, but the really big thing though, I'd say like outside of like half the decks, like Buggy, Teach, and Purple Luffy, they're all like, these are cards for this deck only, right? More or less, I would say. They're less flashable. And then the other 3 are like, here's just a generic pile of cards that a bunch of other decks could maybe even arguably use better than the leader that we packed with you, but just enjoy these cards existing, right?
Yeah. Yamato's very Yamato driven.
Yes.
And like it's very angled towards the M's.
Yeah.
But the Supernova starter deck was like it's a yellow green law starter deck.
I think yellow
green. And gave the red green law, woke up the red green law copers a little bit, like another green card that searches. Okay, all right. That can search itself and can give us 1 extra Dawn for no good reason, like to flex on them. Pretend we have Rad Beam, but I think that generally I made a video going over like updated star decks. It was like specifically like you could see like the Buggy and like Teach chunks were just really small, and then like the green deck and Yamato was just like, here's all these decks that can use these really generic cards. So I think that's it's a cool combination of stuff, and again interested to see what people are going to. So. Cool. Well, there's kind of like I think the preface for that. We're going to talk about our thoughts going into the meta just a little bit more. I think one thing I do want to mention, and we'll go over to the screen. The thought on everyone's mind too is that how good is Blue Purple Luffy? How impactful is it going to be in this meta? And I don't think that it's definitely like the scary boogeyman. I know personally when people were saying the same thing about Green Purple Luffy, they kind of brushed it off, and then it ended up being best deck in the format in the last couple of weeks. And I'm curious if you guys think what it's going to be like. So we'll start with Yonas. What do you think about Blue and Purple Luffy?
So I think blue purple Luffy and green purple Luffy are similar in the fact that they are the best decks in the format, but they're very not easily targeted, but they're targetable.
Sure.
So like the narrative that we've seen a lot when we're kind of viewing things from over here in like Japan is that like blue purple Luffy's the best, and aside from like exactly Bello Betty, the deck usually has a pretty good matchup spread, but the Bello Betty matchup's abysmal. I think it was like a Japanese CS that happened last weekend.
Yeah.
Where there were like an absurd amount of Bello Bettys in top cut. I think it was like 6 of top 16. And Bello Betty only lost to other Bello Betty decks. Which I thought was like the most blasphemous statistic ever.
And then it still ended up winning though, right?
Yeah, it did end up winning.
Yeah. It found its matchup in the finals.
It finally got a in the finals. So I thought that the format is very interesting, and despite the fact that blue purple is this really powerful mid-range deck that kind of stops a lot of other mid-range decks from doing well because of how powerful 9-cost Sanji and 9-cost Mom are, I do think that decks can go really under it with Bello Betty or other aggressive elements, but you can also go over it. I think in the middle of OP11, there was also like decks like Lucci performing relatively well, just going crazy with 10-cost Kuzan and just trying to get removed some Sanjis and 9 Moms that way. So in general, it's going to be a blue-purple meta, but a lot of decks will have reasonable game plans to try to beat it going into this upcoming format. So I'm excited to see how everyone tries to navigate that.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat, but I just see it as a very strong gatekeeper towards like trying to enter the meta. You need to either have a game plan into it, or your game plan is to dodge it and you auto win every other deck in the room, including green-purple. And from what I've read a lot, and I know I haven't played much on the sim for this meta or at all. I think most of the decks that can compete with blue purple can compete with blue purple, can't compete with green purple. Like they would take that loss in order to like justify beating blue purple, and then more people had the game plan around like the adaptations that blue purple went through, which started out no Katakuri, and then over time they evolved to now having Katakuri, and then turning into like this Omega control version with Graveblade and Red Rock, and they couldn't just like all in one particular curve. Like originally, I think when the format just started, because I'm a green player, I'm going to talk about green. Bonnie was like not that bad in a blue purple, and it was like somewhat decent. And then over time, I'm noticing people being like, yeah, you just can't beat them if they put 2 Katakuris on the board. So like you just kind of accept that happens. And I think that like that now that we have those finalized control lists, it's gonna show how much of a gatekeeper it is to the meta, or into the way like everyone has to build and adapt to it. So I'm looking forward to that, and I don't think it's that bad. I honestly think it's a scary deck. It's very annoying. I hate playing against it. But it could be worse. It's awkward to navigate the win conditions against the deck at first, because there's so many times when I'm like, oh, like I can just like keep taking these like chips and taking these +1s or like +2s. I'm getting cards out of them every single turn and eventually close out. And then sometimes it just doesn't happen because the leader ability just like inherently draws them 2 cards that they get to pick from over the course of the game. And so there's a lot of the games where I was like, oh, I'm definitely I'm going to turn the corner or close out soon, and it just didn't happen. And there were like 3 Gum Giants at the board, and I lost. But like had I played properly or like played more aggressive, maybe I wouldn't have given them so much time to build up to like them turn the corner on me, like which ends up happening anyway. So I don't think it's that bad of a boogeyman. I just think it's a strong leader, and it has the right amount of fear and respect needed for this meta.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And also, real quick, I didn't mention this. This is the list from Takion. So this was a week ago. I haven't updated the site for the most recent CS, especially because it's like the last weekend of OP11 before they get into OP12. But this is the list that they got first place with 2 weekends ago, at least, of when this drops. So this is not my list. You cannot make fun of me. I have other lists you can make fun of, but just not this one for me personally. But I do agree that like this is more control heavy, right? Like the 4 Katakuris is kind of indicative of that, and also the Raging Tiger and the Red Rock. So But I think you're right. I think that this is a beatable deck. I think it is going to be difficult to target this one and green purple Luffy because it's either you have really good targeting for like 5, 6, and 7 cost, or you target 8 and 9 cost. Right? There's no real like efficient way to do both. I think that also. I've played a lot of blue purple Luffy. I really don't like the consistency feel for the deck. It is sometimes you will just lose. You or your deck will just not start, or it is like you are autopiloting to when your opponent had no chance. Right? If you double Sanji into the card that you need at that moment, no deck can really answer you. I feel like a lot of the time. So. There are ways to like help the consistency, and like looking top 5 is a lot of cards to look at the top of, but yeah, it's just tough because I feel like the games that I lose are not my fault, and the games that I win aren't my fault either. I'm just kind of watching at times. Once you kind of get the setup for how you do your top 5 and add that consistency, I feel like a lot of it is just what cards you end up seeing, which I don't particularly like in a deck myself.
Have you gotten familiar with like that little prayer you do after you use leader effect for the first time, just really hoping that Sanji hits what you need?
Yeah. And then it's like, cool, there is a Nami, I guess, but then also 2 Franosuke's, a Bon Clay, and a Chopper. So like, I think that, there are ways. I'm curious to see if people, if there's any like unique adaptations to help get the consistency a little bit better on. Like you'll have a turn where you're like, I wish my hand of 5 and the top deck of 5 were swapped because I have 2 categories in here and I'm not wanting to play 8 for them. So I think that's kind of tough for the deck. So if there's like a way to easier like put cards on top, I could see that. I mean, maybe we'll see 2-drop Teach finally get another deck to play with. I know people have been theory crafting with it in Nami, but I haven't liked it as much in that deck. But I think the biggest issue with Luffy is that blue and purple, I think, is such a good color combination right now that you have really answers for a lot of situations that you can just hack into, which makes it difficult to play around every option that they could have in their arsenal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The defensive option in blue and purple are probably some of the best that we've seen in the game period. Obviously, Gum Gum Giant, but even the blue stuff is actually quite reasonable.
Yeah. There's a lot of times I'm playing against it. I'm like, all right, this is like a turn where I'm taking this risk against the deck where I'm like, all right, if you don't have the Raging Tiger or the Red Rock, this is like a strong turn where I could potentially blow out this game. And then I've been weighing those options, and I noticed his list didn't have the puddings in it.
Yeah.
When in my playtesting, my opponent, like my playtesting partner, always had pudding, and so I've always had to like factor that into both my early game hands, what I'm looking for, what I'm keeping, so that way I don't like take 2 swings early and then get puddinged, or like I don't know, knowing that pudding's available as opposed to like Red Rock extra Raging Tigers kind of thing. I forgot what swap he did in order to fit that all in, but yeah, it has so much going for it. So much you have to like dodge and maneuver in order to try and close out against a deck that has 4 Linlins. So
four Linlins is absurd, right? Especially when like you really don't even like discard one, and you also know what card you put into your life most of the time, right? So like if you know that you need to like ramp off Bagua or something, you can get that available to you. The fact that this deck searches top 5, like even if it's not Straw Hat, you rearrange it, you know what card you're drawing at the start of your turn, so you basically look top 5 for a card that helps you out of a situation if you don't already have it in hand. So it's the consistency for this deck is really weird though, because either they have everything or they miss it once and then they lose because they miss the right card one pivotal turn. So I don't know. And also the mirror match is just abysmal. The biggest reason I would want to play this deck is the mirror match, in my personal opinion, is not fun. It is just whoever resolves 2 Sanjis first, you know what I mean, or resolves more Sanjis or something like that, which is you really have minimal control on that, I find, in most builds.
Yeah. In terms of consistency, the only time I've seen it go bad for my opponents have been they see their opening hand, they see their ramp, and all they just keep drawing is more ramp.
Yeah.
And like it's never been like, all right, this is just like my terrible hand, I'm just gonna lose kind of scenario. It's very much like, all right, I'm keeping all this because I hit the card I'm supposed to keep. I saw no Sanjis, no Linlins. This game's over. Like it's been those kind of games. But like I couldn't imagine having to like keep the ramp have the Sanji, and then when you check top 5, nothing's there. I haven't played with this deck yet, so it must be very interesting.
You don't feel good. No, it feels bad. You're just like, and you're like, I guess I could play Nami, and then kind of like the worst is that like but then like you're like in a situation where you need to also giant next turn, and you realize that the other 4 cards on the top of your deck are all bricks. Like you're just like, this giant's getting nothing better in my hand. Like that is very sad to see.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see how it is. I think this deck is going to be strong. I think there's clearly 2 and a 3rd copy of a purple Luffy leader that will keep it in check as well. But I do agree that there is I think the thing with this leader is it's so specific on how you deal with it that you can really target it. I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, I've been able to, I did a lot of play testing. I beat this deck 6 times out of 4, or sorry, 6 to 4 with it. And like in my mind, I'm like, well, what are you sacrificing matchup wise to be able to do that? And are the 4 times you won, is it because they just super bricked and they would have lost that game anyways, right? Like where's the balance for it? And I think it's going to be very difficult for people to adjust to this meta with this deck in the meta. So
yeah.
But we'll see. I know that we will have a lot more testing in the future, but I think this is definitely like the leader that most people are talking about right now. Even on release, a lot of people are like, this leader is insane and has a lot of great properties, and I guess we'll see in the next couple weeks. So, but that's kind of like, I know a lot of people. This is definitely the deck, or at least the leader you have to be cognizant when doing your deck building. You need to know that you can at least win the matchup in some regard, because it'll be, I think, at least for the first couple weeks. Very difficult to miss this. Oh, this one quick side thing before we go to our individual deck list. This deck and Green Purple Luffy have been obscenely expensive compared to, I think, normal costs for decks in the meta. So to have 2 perceived best decks in the format be, I don't know, what's the price of Blue Purple Luffy right now? Is it like what, $500-$600?
If we just remove Bonclay from the deck, does it turn into like $30?
And Sanji and Bonclay are both
hard carrying the pricing.
I think they're like $400 between the 2 of those. Yeah, something like that. And those, base rarity. I know the alt art Luffy leaders, though, like $150 as a recording, $200. Not that you need that card, right? But Green Purple Luffy, the same kind of thing, right? Sanji's and Puddings were pretty expensive as super rares. The shortage for purple secret rare Luffy, that card being, $100 average for the last, especially the first couple weeks. Do you think that this is, alternatively though, like prices for One Piece decks were pretty, I think, consistently under $200, if that's fair, right?
Yeah.
So do you think that, what are your guys' thoughts, I think, about like the rising prices of these decks in the last at least a couple formats that we've had?
I think it means absolutely nothing towards the number of people that are going to play it, or like how popular it will be. I think card game players, they will get the cards that they need for their deck, and they do not care how much they're going to spend on it. And then people that switch over to Bello probably don't do it because of the price tag. They just do it because they don't like this deck.
Yeah.
they're like, I'm not losing to that thing.
I think a lot of it, I mean, we've talked about rotation a lot, but I think a lot of this boils down to just like the difficulty to try to get some of these relatively old cards. I know like Sanji isn't that hard to find per se. Like I know it's like an OP06 or a secret, but secrets are hard to find in general. But EB's been a little over almost a year at this point. Old cards like Jet Gatling are hard to find. So I think a lot of that just boils down to, hey, these are just old cards, and when like formats become relatively stale, I mean, like the card pool becomes more and more massive, it does get harder to get this stuff. But I think a large majority of it is either because there's a lot of like purple overlap, so like the demand for these cards can like double for cards like Usohachi, Sanji, stuff like that. But also just I think that the game's becoming more popular, not due to the Dodgers game promos and stuff like that. Free advertising.
Yeah, and this is a side as well, but like, I think the pricing for the game kind of speaks for itself too, right? The ratio of how much your decks, cost and how much you can win off it is still in your favor, especially compared to, I think, comparable games right now. So I think a lot of people still realize it and, say it's an investment. The reason I say this though, and part of the reason I brought it up is because when EBO2 came out, I had a lot of people saying, oh, Green Purple Luffy's going to have like a slow week or two for the first couple weeks while people are so like justifying or trying to build the deck, and then I did not see that at all. I did not come to that conclusion. People still spent, at those prices, probably like $600 day one, got their deck, and then started winning tournaments immediately. So
Yep.
So that's just
anecdotal. Oh, good.
Oh, that was it. What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was just saying anecdotally. I remember the first week that I had a few friends that just had max rarity decks with like manga Luffy's, like alt art Sanji Pudding's alt art leader, and I was just like, this is a level beyond what I expect. This is overachieving A++ mentality, but I respect it.
Yeah. So this is this is not. I'm not saying this is financial advice or what you do, but because this also is my job, just every set, I just get a play set, and then I don't have to worry about it ever again. And so if an old card becomes expensive, like a promo Trafalgar Law, then I don't have to worry about it, right? But this is the format where like EBO2 was such a anticipated set that I was only able to get a case, and I used the case to run a tournament, right? So this is the first one that I had to just buy singles for instead of just like for OP11, I opened half a case. I got a play set of everything except for like one or two extra secret rares, and then you're going to use the other half for like a tournament or something like that. But
Nice.
generally speaking, so I what I'm saying is I'm not as in tune for the prices because I almost never buy singles. But I was curious to see what your guys' thoughts for, and I think we're still like the easy comparison is Yu-Gi-Oh, right? You spend $1,000 for a deck, you know that your deck could be banned at any second, and then you're getting like an air fryer or something. I know that they're doing better now. They're putting some effort into some prize cards, but I know there's a really big falling out for that competitive community because that ratio wasn't correct.
All right. Old school Yu-Gi-Oh player. I'm old.
Yeah,
We can acknowledge that.
we're all old. Yes, yeah.
Bro, for the love of the game. That's all I ever played that game for. Like, I drove 3 hours one way, played with like a $900 deck to play in like a $200 case tournament or like something like that, just because like I loved playing that game, and I think I just have that mentality.
Mm-hmm.
So like when I come over to this game, I was like, all right, green's cool, really cool color. I'm just gonna max rarity green. And then people are like, why are you playing max rarity? I was like, none of this matters. I'm enjoying myself.
Yeah.
So I think I'm always in that boat when people are like, oh, is it worth it? Like I only bought one box of OP11 and I pulled the secret rare. Yeah. Well, look at the green cards in this set.
I know. I get. Yeah, you're gonna buy a dozen Bonnie secret starter decks just to have.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I'm not buying a case of this, so I can spend all like $1,500 on singles next set, like in 12, right?
Yeah.
So, and even then, when I'm thinking about it, it's like, all right, long-term investment. Rotation is only the first 4 sets. From like way back when.
Yeah, block 1 gets rotated out April 1st of 2026.
If people want to max rarity right now, go for it. You're gonna keep your cards 2 or 3 years, like at least. It's Bandai. They like reviving old archetypes for no reason, and making things broken out of nowhere. Dofi starter deck, if that's like any justification. So, I don't know. I think it's hype. I hate putting a number to, like, a financial number to the incentive of like what I want to spend it on and how much I can potentially win and all of that. So, yeah, I mean, if you're a max rarity guy and you O2 drop tournaments, let's go, baby. You know how we do.
Yeah, you'll be at the bar, the hotel.
we love our leader. We love our decks. Who cares about all this? These tryhards.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. It might be like a boomer thing from like playing games for like over a decade. No offense. I'm in this
totally fair.
But yeah, I just never really did the calculation in terms of the financial like benefit of buying a deck and playing tournaments. This is just for me. This is the way I want to have fun for the most part, and being competitive in this game and just trying to be the best I can be is just how I have the most fun. So sure, it's going to be expensive to buy the stuff. Sure, there is some benefit at the end, but that's not calculus I'm doing when I'm deciding to buy a deck or not. It's whether I would enjoy buying it and using it for a long period of time.
Yeah, and then we're like pre-gaslighting ourselves. So if you don't top 8 or like get like the treasure cup cards, what value was like we need to even out. We need to equalize how much money we spent in. It's like, no, we're just I got there. I didn't get there this week. It's fine. I still pay for my plane ticket. It is what it is. Like.
Yeah,
the real value is the friendship along the way.
The friendship and the food spots you went to when you traveled. That's like
that is true. And believe it or not, I'm not this is not my main career path for the money, believe it or not. The return on investment is not very positive for me. But I will say I generally min rarity. I get like all art leaders. But this is I've definitely gotten like a bit of an itch. Like, what if I do like max rarity my stuff? Like, what's the first deck that I would do it with? And the deck that I have today, actually, I'm really kind of tempted because I like the foiling they do for like yellow cards, and they just look really nice to me. So I'd want to try to do that. And also, I got like 2 all art Zeuses in my boxes. I'm like, oh, what's the cost of 2 more to get that full play set? So. Well, let's just jump over to the decks that we brought this week. We're going to start with Russell's because it's the first one that was in the queue. It is the black and purple Luffy. It is, yes, another multicolored Luffy leader. It got a lot of support for the star deck, which I know a lot of people are kind of upset that there weren't any like new black Straw Hat cards, right? It was just literally just leaning on the purple side of it. But what's your thoughts on this leader, the new cards that we get for it, and this deck in general, Russell?
So I've already played this leader either 2 sets ago or 3 sets ago. Never into like a major tournament, but like my locals, like also like using Gecko Moria to bring back Frankie and like a law and stuff. Like it was really funny. It was just a good leader. So for the most part, it's very obvious, and everyone's gonna know this. The 6-drop Luffy that came in the starter deck is a strong card. Going to 7K for essentially free, like it's mind blowing. And it's also not overpowered. It's just strong. Like when I played with it, I was like, this is just a strong turn. There's so many ways to like adapt to this scenario, and there's the opportunities to like whiff. Never seeing this card, and my deck's kind of like built around it as well. Previously, like the other iterations had they revolved around 10-drop Nika, and then they revolved around Gecko Moria. So we lost Moria because it got banned, and then people started playing like only Nika, Kaido's 9-drops, and then like 6-drop the EBO2 Luffy, right? So the starter deck gave us a replacement for Black Maria, which was fantastic because it made our 1-drop Law not the worst card in our deck anymore. It made it a strong search engine that you can actually use, right? So the list that I'm going for and ended up like testing with was very consistent, as well as like kind of borrowing from everything I saw of how like green purple had its success, which is just a lot of searching, a lot of consistency, hit your power cards, and then keep the same game plan going. Which is why I'm only at 2 Bond Clays. And I'll be honest, when I played Bond Clay in this deck and I was going second, it didn't feel like the strongest play available to me if I had a 3-drop Zoro and a Searcher available to me in the same turn, right? So I'd be like, oh, I'm on 4. I'm like, oh, I'd rather just like swing 6 because I was playing against Blue Purple Luffy, obviously.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, like 6, play Zoro. Zoro ramps like double active, and I'm like, okay, this one can go to my leader, and then like, or I can go like double search for the turn, or I can swing for a 7. It allowed me a lot more options. Like it gave me a lot more options as opposed to Bond Clay, who all it could do at the time is copy a 3-drop Zoro.
Yeah,
and that's pretty much all it was all game until they would like 9-drop into a Linlin and then throw my Bond Clay away. And so the benefit of playing this deck, so I'm just going to jump all over the place, is that you get to use your $-2 effects and essentially generate some form of pressure or like a +1. Frankie's a discard draw 2. Your Luffy gives you like 2 Dawn value on your leader for the cross turn. So usually like you won't have to discard if they choose like to curve out instead of swinging into you at a higher level. Or like you can play Sanji or 9-drop Luffy, Dawn -2, and then draw a card, or Sanji can like pressure the board. But the biggest thing, and my opponent, like my playtesting partner, felt this a lot, is that the +1 cost across turn was very relevant to the board state of like not getting removed, because as a 7 cost you can't get removed by Linlin, and then you're also dodging Gravity Blade, and so you're basically forcing your opponent to red rock a 6-drop in your deck that you can produce over and over again with the amount of search that this deck has. So no more 10-drop Nika, because you can't really find that turn where you actually want to remove your own board in order to just steal the turn away. And I think that's pretty much the reason I kind of excluded from playing it at all, is if I have my, like, at the time I was testing 5-drop Sanji over 8-drop Katakuri. The more I talk with a few other friends, they're like, hey, you need to test Katakuri. And I was like, yeah, I know, I don't have all the time in the world. The more I realized how much I enjoyed the concept of playing Katakuri in this deck. So I can have like my 6-drop Luffy established, Dawn -2 for the turn, and swinging for 7. And then the following turn, drop into Katakuri, swing with my Luffy, Dawn -2. And then now I'm like safely and comfortably protecting my six drop Luffy with my Kata or my leader, so I don't even have to like pass up a card in order to like get a guard in, and then I can go safely into my 9-drop, and then start using my Gum Gum Giants without like feeling like using Gum Gum Giant plus my 6-drop Luffy in the same turn is going to run me out of too much Dawn to try and close out the game. So the deck felt absolutely phenomenal, super consistent. Gum Gum Lightning is there, so I can help fight against Bello Betty and Bonnie or anyone else playing like those mid range decks. Like they really fall victim to just like a random removal to pop a 6K body on the board, and then following up the turn of removal with a turn of ramp. So like if you're able to go like Gum Gum Lightning into a Bonclay, that's pretty much the turn where I felt like Bonclay was very very strong. Other turns were like I've theorized having Gum Gum Lightning, it always made it have like a weak experience. Like I would choose to play a card and then not use its ability because I already Dawn -2 for the turn. And I'm not trying to de-ramp myself. So I didn't want to overload the list with like 4 copies of that. But that's my general thinking. And I'm very, very, very impressed with 9-drop Luffy. Like that card's absolutely phenomenal in this deck. The pressure that applies to you purple is crazy. It becomes like after playtesting more and more games, my opponent started being like, all right, well, I have to save this red rock for this 9-drop Luffy because you out-ramped me and I currently haven't seen a Lin. And so instead of removing your 6-drop, I'm just going to deal with the fact that you're a 7K. But the constant swinging of 7Ks into like a 10K is very, very annoying for them. And I know we live in this ideal world where like if they're a 6-drop, if they're 6K leader, you should be swinging 8, or you should be swinging like higher than that, or you should be matching at 6. But the constant like barrage of 7s that this deck can do for no reason with the secret rare is also quite annoying for them to deal with. Especially when you finish it up with like a bunch of 7s, they're really annoying. You use like secret rare Luffy, Dawn -, and then go like 8-9 with it, and like in the end of the game that came up quite a lot. So I mean, I don't know. Deck's good. That 6-drop's broken. Nico Robin I played twice, and it was the same thing as Black Maria. I just played it out, and I was like, all right, cool. I get a like sweet little ramp. But sometimes when you ramp up into a 9-drop, it's overwhelming for your opponent to deal with, especially when your mid range is so protected from other stuff. I guess the last thing to speak on is Soba Mask, and I just haven't tested it. And it sounds really good if Blackbeard's going to be meta, because it would get Dawn -, in your hand, and then when you play it down, you get to play down for 2. You have to bounce for anything. So you're just going to go wide for no reason. But the likelihood of Blackbeard being like super, super meta is like really low, in my opinion. I think people really do. Like they've caught on to join the Gum Gum Giant train or play like some super aggressive deck. But, we'll see. We'll see how everyone feels. But I think this deck is great, and I can't wait to keep playing with it more.
Yeah.
One quick question. I know like an OP09, a lot of decks or a lot of versions of the deck played 5-cost Sanji, the KO one. Do you think that card's not worth it with all the new 6-drops you want to be playing with the EB and the starter deck one?
I'm just testing it between Katakuri, 6-drop, and 7-drop Sanji.
Oh,
I'm swapping those four cards out in like counts. And the reason I don't feel like swapping out the Bonclay is because I've noticed how many times I don't have like 1K encounter. And adding like removing Bonclays for 5-drop Sanjis to have more non-counter power in my deck sounds like not the wave. not where I'm trying to be at. But yeah, like I tested with the Sanji originally. It felt fine, but it doesn't really do much outside of KO Nami in the U-Purple matchup. Yeah. So again, like I think those 4 cards are just sculpting around the meta that you expect, as well as Gum Gum Lightning. So it's like, all right, if you expect like a lot more early game, a lot more early pressure, then obviously like Gum Gum Lightning and 5-drop Sanjis, their value gets to go up, as well as 7-drop Sanji. And then if it's like, you're gonna have like a more mid to late game like matchups, then 8-drop Katakuri will get more and more value over time. And as a Bonnie player playing into like 8-drop Katakuri could not be more annoying, because like having the turn start with someone swinging at you and then restanding a blocker in the end phase is like really frustrating, because as like green, you're inherently trying to chip and trying to outgrind resources in an attrition war, and Katakuri mitigating any of your 5-drop swings or your 5-cost swings or your leader swing is very frustrating to deal with. And I can only imagine how much more frustrating it would be able to deal with like a 6-drop Luffy that I can't remove, and all I can do is freeze it on the board, like slowly grinding you out of resources. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I dropped some lists for black and purple Luffy too, and which without Sanji, and that was definitely like the one comment like, what isn't this card like really good? And I think it really comes down to like what deck you're targeting, right? Like it has like an infinite amount of value if they don't have like Merry-Go against green purple Luffy, but has like almost no value against blue purple Luffy, right? It's just a brick that's stuck in your hand, so it's tough to have like these tech cards that can target one deck but not just be completely dead in another one. So I think I had a hard time justifying that for a card without any counter in hand, even though it was searchable and even though it was with the archetype. I agree. I had a hard time finding justification for it.
Yeah. A lot of the times is like it was a great non-Dawn minus play, which I like doing a lot. Like there's a lot of 10 Dawn. I don't have a high drop, so I'm like, all right, I'll just play a Frankie and a Sanji this turn. Sanji might not KO anything, but establishing this 5/6 body is kind of all I want to do, and it's another non like brick out of my hand that's gone into the board.
Sure.
And so with that in mind, I was like, whatever, I'll just swap it out for Katakuri at least for this discussion, and then we can talk about it now. So if people want to try Sanji, obviously Sanji's good. And if you're going Sublimass version, obviously you should be playing that Sanji just to have a body on the board so you can play him for a 2-drop. But yeah.
Well, here's okay. I got rocked by I was testing this week and it wasn't with the new star decks. Someone rocked me with let me get this card on the screen. It is the 5-drop Law from the expansion booster. This card's searchable by both search cards because it is a heart pirate. It lets you draw one or make your opponent discard one by discarding 2 cards from your trash, which is trivial once you get them into your trash. So I wonder if that could be like something you could fill that 5-drop spot with, because it kind of gets that
1K counter too, right?
1K counter too. Yeah,
that's a good card. All right, we might play that.
Yeah, that's it just was like a light bulb moment of like someone played that against me. I'm like, why would they do that? And then I lost because I had to discard a card, right? Which again, it's very easy for that to both these conditions, like putting the 2 cards into your trash is like kind of tough, but when you have like a ramp, when you have like the when you're at sea, yeah, that's already 1 card in there, and you are not looking for your trash for literally any other stuff. So that's just a weird little tech card that I've been seeing floating around a little bit. So there we go.
It sounds strong, especially like again, I was talking about trying to adapt to like the pudding matchup or like playing against pudding. That I would like counter out early, like they swing 6. I was like, all right, here's a 2K, and then I would get to 2 cards immediately off of like a turn 1 search. So, that card's definitely interesting. Yeah, well, a lot to consider, and this is again why it's so fun to.
I know it is. It is.
Like,
it is definitely. So I always be like, hey, have you considered this card? And then like you see the gears turning, and they're like, why haven't I considered this card? It's a lot of fun. I really like this format right now.
Yeah, because like I mean, why am I trying to play a black card in this Gum Giant deck? You know?
A clearly purple monocolored deck.
Crazy.
Yes.
yeah, exactly. Like green purple. Like what are you talking about? Green searchers and like the true green cards, Electric Luna. Yeah. Or like 4-drop Zoro, right? So,
yeah. For sure. So cool. Well, I agree. I think that this deck, I know a lot. This is probably one of the more anticipated decks from the star decks that people want to test out. And I think it's gonna be relevant in some regard. I don't know. It's got a lot to fight about that kind of it takes the same space for, but I'd be really shocked if this deck wasn't viable in some regard, and I'd be curious to see what the kind of final card pool kind of looks like. So
yeah, I think it's one of the decks that gets stronger over the course of the meta developing because it knows what decks it wants and needs to play in order to target those specific decks.
Yeah.
But going like in a vacuum, it's very much like, do we play 5-drop Sanji? Do we remove Gum Lightning kind of scenario? So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I also think that it's cool that people are having to re-question cards that they thought were like staple pillars in a deck, and then you have to be like, is this card actually doing anything for you? And they have to think of the last 10 games. They're like, I never played that card. Why am I playing this card? So there it is. All right, next up you've got Teach. This is the deck that Yonas brought. Obviously got some new star deck support, and you're running two cards from it.
Two cards.
Two cards.
Got 2 new cards.
Yeah.
So Blackbeard, despite the fact that it has its own starter deck in this current format, I think the best card that it got is actually from OP11 in the 1-cost Caribou blocker. Having a 2K that's also just a 1-cost blocker just really changes how much more aggressively this deck can play compared to before. I think like before you kind of had to like wish-wash between like sometimes being a KO deck and sometimes being a Burgess deck and just trying to go super Burgess oriented. I think with more blockers I think you can really rely on trying to like make your deck as much about Burgess as you possibly can, and that's kind of the idea that I had for this deck list. So having a bunch of blockers, and we got 2 new cards that kind of help facilitate both the Burgess plan and just the blocking plan. The 4-cost San Juan Wolf is just like a 4-cost 6K blocker that is like really hard to remove in the late game, which is like super nice, especially when people are playing cards like Uso Hachi to rest blockers near the end. This card's like kind of immortal in a lot of those ways. And more importantly, the new 6-cost Kuzan as a way to kind of block in the mid game while also being able to bring back 5-cost Kuzans or just more Burgesses back from the trash. I kind of made this deck just like race as much as I possibly can against blue purple with all these Burgesses, and against decks like green purple where they can race faster back. I'm just playing a bunch of liberations to kind of shore that kind of matchup back. I do think that if people get really, really techie for this deck and just play a lot of cards like the new secret 8-cost Snake Man Luffy, or just play like multiple Gravity Blades, this deck can sometimes lose. But I felt like I had more success with this kind of version than I did with the 7-cost Teach version after a lot of testing. Have you guys tried out the Blackbeard deck? What are you guys' thoughts on it with the new cards?
I have definitely theory crafted, and spoilers. It's going to be one of the decks for. I think it's Wednesday when One Piece will happen before this releases. So I guess you guys will already know how it went, but I think Teach is in a good spot. The 7-cost is really interesting, and I'm just like, I like dumb little interactions. The fact that you can KO your own cards with it is really, really neat. So then I get to like draw a card off my dock queue that's not ever going to resolve again, is kind of fun, right? But I do think like a lot of people said this on release, right? Jack wasn't being played at all, and it is essentially the same effect, right? Without it being a searchable body. So I am curious to see if that is the adaptation for it. I also think like 6-drop Kuzan is like a really good card, but 6 Dawn is a lot. It's just pretty much your like whole mid game play, and if they have a way to answer it, then it was a really big sunk cost for you. So I don't know how I feel. I'm not a Blackbeard player, so that changes kind of how I identify some of these cards. But I do agree that they are. Nothing is clearly better. A lot of the cards that we got are cards that you could play instead of cards, but like not. I don't feel like anything like really ramped it up. Maybe the better way to say is that when Blackbeard came out, there were clearly 50 cards you put in the deck, right? And now we have like maybe 60 cards, and now you have to actually whittle it down and make deck building decisions compared to just getting the deck verbatim. So maybe we'll see. Maybe that will be untrue in the next couple of weeks when we find the build of 50. But it will be really curious to see how it shifts.
I don't know. I never liked that 7-drop Blackbeard, like the Teach. I when I first read it, I was like, nah, sure, I guess so. I thought pretty much how you have the list is exactly where I would want it. I just read by a bunch of like strong players that they all felt like Liberation in this like over this past weekend was like easily played around. And maybe with the increased like blocker count, because this is essentially what they're doing now. And they were playing more Vasco shots, and then they were playing one what's the 5-drop? No, yeah, they were playing 4. They were playing 4 the VVs.
Okay,
yeah.
Blocker Devon,
Yeah. 1 Devon and then 4 blocker VVs, and I was like, all right, that's exactly where I always wanted to be. Because I remember like previous podcasts talked about this. I love Vasco shot, and I was playing like 3 to 4 of it because I always thought it was a very strong card. So I can only imagine like this is even better. The 6 Dawn for Kuzan to me is like not even a waste of an investment, because you have those turns where like you're starting the race, or you're missing one of the pieces of the Van Augur, the Doc Q, and you're like, this is just like a great stabilizer, and we're in a spot where like my opponent definitely needs to tap out next turn. And so me getting like this free like 6K blocker is just going to be fantastic in this spot. So I always thought like when I first read Kuzan, I was like, this is the best card in this in the starter deck. And then Caribou like is all got added. I haven't thought about Teach in general into this meta, but yeah. How does it feel into you purple or like?
I think the matchup doesn't feel that bad. You basically use leader effect every single turn after 9 Dawn because of 9 cost Linland. But it just boils down to whether they draw their tech cards at a reasonable time, and it has to be very timely. Whether it's Red Rock for the first 10 drop, Gravity Blade for some Burgesses. or like if they get you with a pudding in the middle part of the game before that kind of stuff. So you kind of have to navigate towards those weird one-ofs and see how the game plays out. But aside from that, like Blue Purple doesn't really have the tools to beat like a bunch of 10K swings.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No shot. No shot. Can they do? Can they deal with that?
Yeah. So, but the more that Blue Purple text for like matchups like this, the harder it is to pair against everything else. Because like I imagine that deck or like Blue Purple wants cards like 9-cost Mihawk to beat decks like Purple Black Luffy or like Green Purple Luffy to deal with 7 drops. But then that card's like unplayable compared to like Snake Man Luffy. So there's a lot of tension in terms of like Blue Purple deck building. So if you get paired against a relatively unprepared version, you can probably cook it very easily.
Yeah. Would you say that the Snake Man's it's worse than getting Gravity Bladed because it swings?
Oh, the Snake Man, yeah. I think Snake Man on curve is harder to deal with than Gravity Blade because you can just rebuild after Gravity Blade. But yes, Snake Man.
Or like you anticipate the Gravity Blade, so you only sit on one. And you only sit. Yeah, I got one in hand. You Gravity Blade, I'm going to drop the other one, and then we're going to start 10 dropping next turn. Like
or you play like a 5-cost or a 6-cost Kuzan and just like try to, or like a 5-cost Kuzan and wait on it and see what they do, kind of thing.
Yeah. Because they can't remove it. Yeah.
So I do think it's very, very promising. It's just hard to build. I'm not entirely sure what the deck build is going to look like with a deck like Blackbeard, just because it's so meta dependent.
Yeah, and I think that Russell was right about like Liberation too, where again specifically like Green Purple Leaf, that card's amazing. I've definitely seen an uptick in the last couple of weeks of EBO2 where it only looks at the original cost, which is good against Green Purple, but terrible against a deck that plays 8 cost 9 cost almost exclusively in the late game. So I think that's something that is tricky for when it comes to Blackbeard, and you just really have to decide what decks you want to really deal with, because otherwise, you can't have you don't have these cards that are good in most situations. It's really polarizing, so that can be really tough in the deck building.
Yeah, and then like to speak to that too, like if they're playing around Liberation, their board's small, meaning, but like you have so many blockers, you can regulate the like potential pressure that they'd be applying at your own pace, right? So like if they keep their board small and they're like, all right, leader, and you're like, yeah, I can take this one, and then I can like block the next one or counter out of the next one, and so you kind of like dictate the tempo a lot more, even if they're trying to play around Liberation. And if you have a full lead, you just pitch every Liberation you see if it's not like relevant for the matchup. So
I agree. I do think playing on Liberation is a useful skill set, but I think people kind of over exaggerate how powerful it is.
Yeah.
Especially if Blackbeard has other options. Like I've seen a lot of people only have like a 4-cost in play and then choose not to play a character to play around Liberation. And then their opponent just goes, all right, I'm a Kuzan Van Augur, get rid of your guy. And then now
now we're done because you wanted to like to play that and just climb high. Yeah.
So it is like there is a lot of tension, and sometimes just playing around that card isn't going to be, oh, I've won the game. There is like a lot of back and forth, and Blackbeard does put people in some untenable spots for the most part.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be interesting to see because in Japan's format, Blackbeard got I think the occasional top right here and there. I don't think it did really anything amazing. I think OP10's still been like the heyday for Teach for us so far. But yeah, having some new cards, and I think specifically, right, like the only differentiation in build is if you are playing I bid 300 million berries, right? That was like the one card that people weren't sure if it was viable or not. And then into EBO2, I haven't really seen anyone play that card. So just having the choice where people can decide or try like different builds. Like for example, this is more like the tempo Burgess aggressive build, but obviously people are playing like the super bunker build with like the 7-drop Teach. It will be cool to see what those kind of look like in the next couple weeks if one of those or both of those survive in particular. So cool. All right. Well, we saved the worst for last. It is my build. It is the blue and yellow Nami. This was a deck that it's just an interesting leader, right? They just said this leader should exist. We'll give it kind of like some support, but let's just see if we can make a deck that is like a 7K on defense every turn, right? Like, oh, you have to discard a card every turn, but guess what? You draw a card almost every turn, so there's no real cost for it. You gave it a lot of great cards, and I'm playing some really weird builds. I'll be like the first to admit I've changed my builds quite a bit, and I think Nami is definitely just kind of a catch-all leader in this format where there are just yellow and blue just have a lot of great cards right now that You can just kind of put them all. You can put your personal favorites into the deck, and it will still kind of work, even with like minimal synergies. So, in particular, with my Nami builds, so I've been kind of leaning a little bit more on the Supernovas package. The original idea was like 3-drop Bonnie could put 5-drop Luffy into her life, and even if nothing else happens, that gets you to draw 1 because you replace a life. So, like, if you could play a 3-drop blocker that's draw 1 card, why would you not do that? You could pretty easily convert that into making your leader a 7k leader and then a 9k leader with the defensive skill, which is great. I kind of found out that 9ks are fairly strong right now, and most decks are playing them anyways. So it didn't do as much as I thought it would. So I've kind of leaned away from that. But I think like this kind of package where we have a little bit more blockers is great. 6-drop Law, I kind of dusted off some copies of that card. Just the fact that 1-drop Luffy can find it because it's a supernova, supernova, and not a 7 Warlords. So Luffy 1-drop can find it, which is cool. I think that when I was doing more testing, I think more and more people were playing around the pudding potential, which meant that you didn't have 6 or less cards in hand. So I've changed to adding another Straw Hat Searcher in the deck, which is the 1-cost beige that was here. So that lets you find Nico Robin, which against a deck that has 3 life is really good just to burn one of them. The fact that you're a 6k body just means like for no Dawn investment, you can pressure a 6k leader, which is great. I still like the 7-cost Law just as a way to heal in this deck, which is mildly rare to do. Otherwise, I like the 8-drop Luffy I came around with. I ended up liking this one. There's not that many ways to actually put Dawn under a leader consistently. I've thought about the 5-drop Katakuri that came from the Katakuri Star deck last October. We're kind of flexible with our life enough that it's not outrageous for us to take a damage every turn to be able to get that extra Dawn, to be able to put it underneath our leader. I think 8-drop Kid is like stupid strong against, like, it's probably like one of the best counters against specifically Luffy right now, because just the burn damage is great. The 9k body is really tough to deal with. The fact that also you get to draw 1 trash one at the end of your turn. Not that the cards really matter in your hand because every card's a 2k essentially too. So it just helps you find your pieces. If you play 2 kids back to back against blue purple Luffy, they're usually crying because it's, and if not, then it means that they don't have any life because they didn't play like a Linlin last turn, and then like you can red rock and then just actually pressure them for some value. So that's obviously the matchup we want to try to go into. I like the consistency from 1-drop Luffy. You can find a lot of things, including 1-drop blue beige, which you can find something else with. The fact that the 2-drop beige is searchable by both of our searches is really nice. And it's just a good blocker in general. And there's just like some compromises for like value, or like our 2Ks are just kind of weak. I found like Nojiko is better than Zeus 9 times out of 10, so I'd rather have like searchable 2Ks. And but yeah, if your opponent doesn't know how to play against this deck too, you get a lot of free card draw. Being able to play Pudding, Red Rock, and Burn Damage all in the same deck is really, really, really nice. And it's very easy for us to be really defensive, and our opponent just have like feel like they don't really know the best way to hit into us, which also always just feels really nice. So I don't think this deck did a lot in Japan. It did just get a 2nd place finish a week or 2 ago as well, with a wildly different build. That was the first build I really tested with the deck, and it didn't really jive with me that well. But I've been liking this build. I don't know if it's going to be meta, but I've been just pleasantly surprised on just testing a new deck, which is fun.
Jonas, do you have access to this deck list? Do you know where his deck list is at?
Oh, you know what? You guys aren't seeing that. That's very funny.
He's got to drop that in chat.
Oh, my apologies. You guys can see it now. My apologies. I forgot.
Also, when you're describing it, it was getting wilder and wilder.
Yeah. Sorry.
Blue badge, and I was like, blue badge.
Yeah, you guys. We had like a group chat, so they dropped their list, and I'm like, I don't need to drop mine. I already have mine for the assets. So, all right. Now that I've prefaced it without you guys seeing it, what are the first 10 seconds of actually seeing the list? You guys can take a moment. I can tread some water, but
just absorb everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you guys have been following me on my Twitter, you'd be knowing that, but no.
All right, so Hiyori's broken in this deck. There's no way you're not playing Hiyori.
Why? Actually, why?
He doesn't have Kikanojo either, so it doesn't really make that much sense to put in life, to be honest.
Yeah. Why? I lose a 2k from my hand and 2 to draw 1. And like what? Put 1 at the top of my, right? Because I draw 1 for my leader effect, right? But
all right, that's because I also play Slave Arrow in my
sure.
So
like that's fine. I
balance. I think you have nothing to do with that extra Dawn once you hit 10 Dawn.
Yeah.
They give you an 8-drop, 1 on your leader, and You got one open, a slave arrow right there. That's how you win.
That's fine. I was also playing like the new Red Hawk, because I was playing. You can't search it with beige because beige is like law. You can only find a 2 or more. But that being able to get rid of 5 cost, original cost or less is really good. So you can get rid of like Bond Clays, Zoros, or even a Marigold Sanji Pudding. So I was playing that card, but I just took it out. But you can definitely run that one for sure.
Yeah.
What else was
Dang,
there?
you really like Nujiko that much over Zeus? I thought Zeus was so scary to play against when I was testing against it.
So really the big issue for it was that I felt like my life was a really big resource, and I was really afraid of taking damage early. I mean, with the answer of Trafalgar Law, we can actually be really defensive, where we can play Law, we heal, we could become a 7k leader again defensively, and also with the amount of blockers we have Scratch Mana Poo, we have the 2-drop Beige, which 2-drop Beige kind of heals us sometimes too because of how like the effect works, and we also have like Nami. So generally speaking, I know that there's like a lot of just cards that people are like snap adding, right? Like 1-drop Beige, right? The 1-drop Beige that puts the Supernova to the same. It's like Nojiko or like Kiko Nojo, but or not Kiko Nojo, Hiyori.
It's Hiyori.
Hiyori, yeah.
Hiyori, yeah.
Which is fine, but I'm just like, do I really feel like it's necessary to draw that 2 or draw that 1 for 2, or if I put 2 Dawn underneath my leader and I deal damage to my opponent, I get the draw anyways. So that was kind of the mentality for it. When I was playing like the 5-drop Luffy Supernova more leaning build, I definitely had Hiyori and Beige in the deck, but I just realized I never really played those cards. I almost always had like a better play, because even on like 10 Dawn, it could be like 7-drop Law, put 5-drop Luffy in there, play 2-drop, and then still have 1 Dawn for my leader.
Yeah, it's probably because you're searching instead. That's like really the biggest logic. You're spending your time searching over going for like the Okiku or like stacking a Veg or a random like red rock just to
for sure
regulate something early. You also don't have the Grav Blade.
Yeah. Because I would say like I try to just be like mildly more aggressive, because again, like on 6 I'm always like burning a card from you, which also means I'm getting a draw. Unless like you somehow have 2 life and you have 5 cards in hand, which like never like is a tough line to cross, which means I'm probably winning for some other reason anyways. But I found like just if you are able to establish 8-drop Kid is great. The fact that it will almost always just get you that end turn draw 1 trash 1 is really good. Just means your hand's always healthy, so you can always pitch a card for leader effect and have a 2k if you need it. And what else? I do agree. There's just a lot of cards where people are like, why are you not running this card? It makes complete sense. And I've just done a lot of testing with this, and I truly haven't really missed it. But
it's not even a knock. It's more surprise judgment. I'm like, all right, well, I guess you don't have that. That's fine.
I read my comments. Yes.
I like Okiku Nojo is like such an annoying pest for decks to try and deal with, and having the natural 6k body is very, very good.
Sure,
but maybe that's because I was playing against it, so I always had to respect it. But playing with it, I can only imagine how many times you're like, I just don't need to do this right now, or this card's dead in my hand, and like at least I get to turn 7k next turn by discarding it.
I will say that one of the newest adds is the 8-drop Luffy. So like if you are playing like Hiyori or Zeus at more copies, then you get benefited because you discard a card to put a 2k back into your hand. So that kind of happens, but you kind of already do that with your 1-drop searchers, and I much rather like, let's say I turn 1, I played Luffy and it stayed there the entire game, which will happen pretty often, right? I'll blue Luffy on curve, I put it back to my hand on 10 Dawn, I can say, cool, all right, look top 5, cool, I found 8-drop Kid, play Kid. Then I still have Dawn for everything. I can do a 6 and 8k attack, and then I can also just put Luffy back in my hand with my blue Luffy swing if I had that still on board. So I just found that it just was more consistent. And you'd still usually would draw a card because you usually still because Useless Kid did the damage anyways, so you're still fine.
It sounds like a green yellow law impersonation, so I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
And you're playing like half the cards, right? If you have like blue green color blindness, like you could be confused for sure. So what about you, Yonas? I saw you, I've seen you brewing.
I had a very different build where I relied a lot more on cards like Hiyori and synergies with them, with like cards like Jozu, Slave Arrow, stuff like that. The main like surprise if you're trying to be so aggressive is not including like early 4-drops that are very good against blue purple, like the Kikonojo we talked about, but also the Cavendishes.
Sure.
Those feel too much like bricks, or they feel like the card advantage wasn't that good with cards like Cavendish.
So I would say here's my generally speaking, I'd almost always put 4 Dawn underneath my Nami because that gets me a card draw. If you're playing as blue purple specifically, they just have like it's going to get Lin Lind anyways, right? So instead of giving them a target, giving them like just making that you draw a card, and then either they get out of it and then Nico Robin's on curve, or if they don't, then they have 7 cards in hand. Then Law feels really powerful in the next turn. So generally speaking, it would be like I play like a 2-drop beige early. That card staying on board for the entire game is fine, or I just play like Nojiko instead to put back their Zoro Juro or something they played. And I found like the 4s and 5s that could exist weren't impactful enough to justify spending an entire turn and missing out on a potential card draw. From my experience.
When you did that like attach 4 push and they didn't respond back immediately with like putting swings or a Joro ramp, did that happen a few times and you felt it was definitely recoverable? Or like it's probably more recoverable in your build, I'll be honest, because of so much searching. Like
yeah.
You're not gonna end up breaking like the build I'm testing with like Hiyori and stuff, right?
Sure, yeah.
So
I generally say it's really consistent. Working on my 1-drop ratios because I'm just playing 3 and 3. The overlap for them is specifically 2-drop beige is the only one that both of them can find. Luffy's really great late game because it finds like your 8 drops. Beige being able to find Red Rock is stupid, so that helps you a lot. And
if you can't tell, pudding terrorized me during my testing. Single time. Every time I think about something, I was like, "What if they just swing and pudding you? How do we not lose?"
I mean, like if you go again, like that's why Nico Robin is really good because I didn't have that card originally, but it's like, all right, cool. Well, they went down to 3 cards in hand, and then I'm just gonna play Nico Robin instead, and then it still does the damage, and you still feel bad. That's definitely been like more of an adaptation, but. Both Law and Nico Robin being searched by individually our other ones makes it moderately easy to, play into 1. Against every other deck that's not blue-purple Luffy, Nico Robin's almost always going to do damage on 6 as long as you just prep for it. And then Law is like a little bit less consistent, but it is like a 6k 7-drop body, and you really don't care about non-counters in this deck when, again, every card can become a 2k. So... that's just the idea. So you really just want to set them up for, like, if you like Nico Robin and then Eustace Kid, a blue purple leader, they're just like, that's like, dude, that's most of my life.
Yeah, that's how I felt when I played Katakuri. So I was like, there's no way it's bad in here. It's just as broken, just as annoying to deal with.
The only time that I have like some issue is if they have to like specifically double Sanji into Lin Lin. If they don't do that, I feel pretty confident. If they do that, I feel a little bit worried. But otherwise, it's been. Making them just be at 0 life for most of the game, they have to play they have to be aware that they could just lose on the next turn if they're not careful, which is great.
Yeah.
So
awkward ramp. You can force Gum Gum Giants for no reason, and then they drop out of their leader ability, and you're just like, woohoo!
Yeah,
we're there.
So and then again, like always having like putting as an ace in the hole in some scenarios, right? Like there have definitely been games where I'm like, the fact that they likely have 2 Gum Gums in their hand is going to lose it. So I just putting and then just hope that I'm better than them. And that's sometimes I'm, I'm better than some players at times. So that having that as a backup card in the deck is never really an issue.
One of my homies started playing pudding on me, even though I have 5 in hand, because he's like, you've been searching a lot. This is annoying. He reshuffles. I draw 4 2k counters, and I just lose.
Yeah, right.
Like that's why we do that. And I was like, this is the most annoying thing in the world.
Playing a 4k body against a 6k leader feels bad, but like if you have nothing better to do, like why not? And even if it's just like a -1, it's if your opponent's searching a lot, that mix-up can hurt a lot.
Yeah. So.
I don't know. This deck could just be bad. It could just be my playtesting group, and I think there's a chance for a lot of echo chambers right now. So we'll have to see when more comes out. But generically, I've been having a lot of fun. Worst case, I think that Nami's quickly become one of my favorite leaders just to mess with, just because how the game works and how it values is really different. And I've been really happy with the deck in general.
It's because it's a Masters deck, bro.
As in Dragon Ball Masters.
It's a Dragon Ball Masters deck, bro. That's the same thing.
It's the same reason why I like purple, yellow, Croc, because it's like, I get to do stuff on my opponent's turn sometime, or like, I understand I have a specific type of deck I like.
Every people that played other card games, when Nami first dropped and we saw the leak list of OP11, I got messages from Pokemon. People were like, there's no way this leader's not busted. Like, this must be the best card in the game. I'm like, maybe we'll see. Like, it's gotta be good. And they're like, no, man, I've been playing card games for 20 years. This card's not balanced, bro. This is banned next.
The one thing I will say is it's very generous that the condition is 7 or less cards in hand. I think they could have easily been in 5 or 6 cards in hand, and it would have been a little bit more balanced. But I will draw 7 to 8 for free. Like, that's I will be a champion in that, and then cycle my hand with Kid afterwards in case I didn't find the card I need. So it's been a lot of fun, regardless if it's truly good or not. I've been happy with the build and having fun testing it. So there it is. Per usual, we are clearly over the hour mark, and I have somewhere to be in like 5 minutes. So we'll close it out for this one. But as much as this is content for you guys, the viewers, this is definitely for me and for us, just to be able to sit down and talk. And especially going into a new format like this, it's been cool. I've already gotten some more ideas just talking to you guys throughout your decks too, which is cool. And I think this is definitely going to be just for like content right now to exist. Like, there's a lot of people who just like believe in a deck or believe in something, and to be able to have that chance to really prove it is rare in this game, and I hope a lot of people take advantage of it.
I'm hoping to see Eggman do it well in another Gen Con event, and then relatively soon. So
run it back, man.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Since you're the only one that played Newgate, and you kept talking about that card.
I did.
And everyone I know was like, "Why is he playing that?"
You can play it in Nami too. I was so tempted. You do not understand it.
You really should play a 1-of. Who cares? Discard it. It's a brick.
Well, so here's the thing though. It's
okay.
Do you know? So do you know the synergy it has with Nami?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'll explain it for the rest, but. The way that Nami reads is just like whenever a card leaves a life area, right? It can be replaced, right? Newgate says, 1. All right, put 1 on top, look at all your life, put 1 from your life on top of your deck, and that's it, right? And the Nami effect says, cool, I'm going to draw that card that you just put on top.
Yeah, draw the card you put out of life.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm like, can I find room for this card? Because I only do well if Newgate's in the deck, so I might have to add the Spice 1 copy. But I'm also playing in the last literal regional weekend, so like the chance of like Secret Spice being Secret Spice at that point is incredibly low. But we'll see. We'll see if.
But you're playing in person at a Gen Con where I feel like there's not a lot of One Piece players that are showing up.
That is true. It is the most expensive probably One Piece event that we have this season. I'll say underpopulated Indianapolis, Indiana. So that might be a factor for us. So we'll see if that.
It's even pricier than the Dodgers game.
That's true. That Luffy is yeah. So Yonas, anything before we close out?
No, but I'm really excited for Oviedo's the first OP11 event that we have, right?
It is in Florida, yes, which you will definitely be in, and I'm like
I will hopefully have a spicy deck, and fingers crossed I do well there.
Yes. Yeah.
Starter decks are not legal for that event?
They are.
They are. Starter decks come out this week, so this or Friday, so they'll be legal for next week. Yeah,
OP10 and Star decks are the same release. It's just they had the pre-release event, which is why all the OP10 or OP11 products been circulating. So but so both will be that. And it's like a 512 regional, 512 in-person treasure cup. I can't recall. So it's a one-day event.
In person, and I believe it's 512 one day.
Yeah. So just Swiss, but I agree. There's going to be. These first events are always so fascinating to see what people bring in, and generally I know for like in-person events people generally are a little bit more tentative, but like day 1 online events, when the cost is $20 to stay in your room in your pajamas, like it is, people bring whatever they want, and so hopefully we see some diversity from those events too. So Russell, anything from you before we close it out?
The Bonnie starter deck's not that bad.
No,
could have been worse.
It could have been worse.
Kid Killer's a good card. 10-drop Lon Beppo's a good card. I see people complaining. It could have been Shanks. You could have gotten a Shanks starter deck. It could have been much worse. All right, guys.
The Red Purple Uda starter deck? Yeah, it could have been the.
It could have been that. The model starter deck, fire. Honestly, the Buggy. All right, please do not sleep on Buggy. Please don't get caught.
No, would not. No.
Buggy's a good deck.
No.
Like, just period. It should be in your testing circle. The new 8-drop that they got is absurd. The Meow Click and Croc.
You were going to think you're going to remove something, and they just discard a card and ask what's up.
Just read the card. Read the card so you can understand the lines that's like what's going to happen to you, and like if you should clear the 4-drop Alvita on board or not. Like that's it. That's all you should be really thinking about. But I see a lot of anger about the sadness that could have been Bonnie, and I loved it. I breathed a sigh of relief once we got all the starter decks. I was like, dude, they didn't help out Shanks or Blackbeard all that much more. That's great. We love that.
Yeah, that's a win for
Like,
Bonnie, right?
Bonnie doesn't need that much help. It just needs everything else to calm down, and I felt like that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
So.
No, I think Bonnie. Yeah, I think in general, Green has the most cards to really play with. Obviously, like Green, Yellow, Yamato is going to be. It can obviously play like the Wano stuff, but be really generic. And I'm curious to see like what those builds look like too. So.
I think it's strong. It's so consistent now. Like, that Yamato one, 2-drop, drop Yamato,
1-drop. Yeah. That's just searches.
So
it's very very good. So
yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that's going to be it for us. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll if you guys see that at events, don't be shy. You can definitely say hi to us. We might have some goodies. No guarantees on that. Again, Yonas will be pretty much at every in-person event between here and Gen Con, where you won't be at that one. I'll be like the inverse. I'll be at Gen Con in Vegas and like maybe in Florida. And then Russell, you will be in not the Toronto one, right?
Literally just Toronto.
Just Toronto. Okay.
No onlines, no anything else. I'm taking a break of my own until OP12.
Yeah. And so we won't be in the same room until probably like September, October then.
Card Game Fest.
Yeah, Card Game Fest.
That sounds like nationals.
Yeah. So which is okay with me. So
OP12 baby.
OP12.
Green deck playable.
Yeah. So that's going to be it for us. Thank you guys so much for watching. We really do appreciate it. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.